Hey guys, Analog Man here for another deck profile, and as you can see from the title, we are finally looking at Blue Hybrid. Blue Hybrid, after the announcement of Tommy basically being back to 4, basically allows this deck to finally do what it does again, but even better now that we have BT14, which also gives us even more crazy new support for source stripping, especially with the Gomamon line and Joe basically giving us ways to just pick and choose what we want to remove, along with the support from Rising Wind for Jellymon also helps boost this deck, specifically the level 6. So yeah, crazy, crazy stuff. This deck got a lot of boosts, and it can finally return and basically wreck the format again, which a lot of people are saying it won't. That's where I feel like they're underestimating this deck. It's a very strong deck and can even hold its own against Shine because you can basically continuously strip all their sources and force it so that they can't attack next turn over and over and over, which is really busted. So basically preventing your opponent from basically doing anything for the turn stops them from basically playing the game, which is really what Blue Hybrid does best. Anyway, let's get into the deck so you can see what I'm talking about. For eggs, of course, we are running the 4 Wenyamons because Wenyamon is still the best egg for this deck because we cannot run the new Bukamon because we don't really make a big enough stack in raising to get its effect off. So we opt for this because it says when basically if you have a blue tamer when you're attacking, you get to draw a card. And in this deck, we are running a lot of blue tamers, so this will always really go off as long as you time it perfectly and get the draw. Yeah. Then for rookies, we run kind of like a variety. Honestly, we have like a huge mix because we want to be able to search, and we also want to be able to remove sources. So first off, we run the 3 Strawbymon from BT4 to search the top 3 for a hybrid and a tamer. So self-explanatory. We need that to do some searching. We run the 3 Evade Jellymon because when attacking, trash the bottom card of one of your opponent's Digimon. So if you end up evolving and raising, you could potentially do that. But the main thing we want this for is to set up the Jellymon protection play. Also to just kind of get Jellymon cards into the trash. So pretty solid. Then we run 3 Gomamons. The new Gomamon, the SR one, specifically at the start of the main phase, trash any one Digivolution card of one of your opponent's Digimon. This Digimon can't be blocked for the turn. So basically, you push up, and let's say you're playing against Greymon, you remove that one Greymon X, and now they don't have protection. So if you go into something that can remove more sources and they're completely gone, you can just bottom deck it. So pretty strong. Then we run, of course, the 3 Bokomon. This being a hybrid deck, we need Bokomon to search the top 5. It's basically our best searcher, so we have to run at least 3. So we're running 3, 6, 9, 12 rookies. A little bit. It's usually the standard number, but usually when you want to max out on like 4 of something or whatever, but I want a split of everything so that way I can see it consistently. So we run this ratio in a way like this so that way we can see it consistently. For the level 4s, we of course run the 4 Kumamons, this being Blue Hybrid, you want to get this, trash a source, and then evolve it up into something else. So still a solid 4 of. Then we have Korikaku, which can evolve on basically any level 4 for 1 cost, and then if it has hybrid or Tommy in its traits, it gets to stun something with no sources, so really strong card. So I always set it at 4 because it's one of the best level 4s for Blue Hybrid. Then we run 2 of the new Lanamon. Lanamon is actually pretty cool too. When you Digivolve it, you can equip something and then basically give it jamming. So in conjunction with this Jellymon, you can actually set it up and trash another card while swinging with Beowulf. So pretty cool because you can swing, trash a card, then use activate Sword Joe, remove like 4 more sources or 2 for each if you have 2 out. Then you get 2, 3, you're removing 3 sources from it and you're stripping basically almost all of a level 4s away. So really strong. That's all for the level 4s we actually run. We only run these 10, but they're really powerful, so when you have them go off, they're just really good. And we have ways to return them back to our hand, thanks to the level 5, of course. We're running 3 Beowulf Mons. When swinging, you can actually return a card from its sources to basically bounce something of that same level. At the same time, when the main attack, you can return 1 hybrid, and then return one of your opponent's level 4 to his own hand. Trash all the sources of that card you bounce, which is self-explanatory. We run 3 because we want to see it consistently, but we also want to be able to see our other level 5, which is 2 Zudo Aces. Zudo Ace is really strong, especially if you end up leaving a level 4 on the board and your opponent doesn't kill it. You can just Blast Evolve, remove the last 2 sources on their guy, and just bottom deck it immediately, so it doesn't even like get to check, essentially, or it stops the other guy that's about to check, so really strong. And yeah, that's basically all the level fives we run. We only run five exactly, but this deck doesn't really need that much to kind of go off because eventually it should be able to chip through all of their security and just go for game usually. For level sixes, we only run one, and we run the newest one, Amphimon from Rising Wind. This one is just insane. For those that do not know what this card does, when digivolving and when attacking, you can trash up to 2 blue cards in your hand, and for each one, you trash any one card from your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. So you can choose anything from their Digimon or underneath their Tamers to basically remove and trash them. Then you can return one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources to the bottom of their deck. So if you manage to strip all their sources, then you just bottom deck it. And then it's also a when attacking attack. So if you don't pass the turn with this, you get to remove 2 and then swing and remove another 2 and bottom deck it at the same time. So really strong effect. Like you should be able to strip all their sources if you manage to evolve into this and not pass turn. Or if not, you can pass turn and just like bottom deck it in the process. So really strong card. I highly recommend running 2 of this at least to see it consistently. And with our new card or our new basically training card, we are able to grab this without using the or basically missing with the hybrid searching. So really solid. And then the last Digimon of the deck is one Susanomon, because once we get rid of all these hybrids and also the tamers, we can just go for game with this and delete something at the same time. So really solid. And you should be able to honestly like pass turn with this most of the time, because I've been able to basically gain 7 and just swing for game with it usually. Yeah. For the rest of the deck, we run a bunch of options. We run 4 Sorais because, of course, this helps us source strip and stun them for the turn. Then we run 2 mental trainings. This new card is really great. Honestly, it's amazing. You reveal the top 2 cards and just add a blue card, which is basically almost the whole deck except for Boko and Susanoma. So you basically are guaranteed to grab everything. And then main for the delay, which it basically sets itself here. You can basically make it so one of your Digimon, when they're digivolving into a blue Digimon, you reduce the cost by 2. So you can make this a 2 cost and not pass turn, which is really cool. I'm opting to run 2 of this at least. I might bump it up to 3 because it's just so good, but we do need other options for source stripping as well, so you know, that's how it is. We run 1 Howling Memory Boost because that way we can see this as often as possible and possibly like swing for more or to get rid of more sources basically. And of course it gains us 2 memories, so it's like a memory boost, so really solid. Then the last option card we run is 1 Ice Wall. Ice Wall is self-explanatory because it basically forces your opponent to kind of almost pass turn every time they attack. So really strong. For Tamers, we run a lot. We run 4 Tommies, of course. Finally, he's back to 4. Our boy's back. Now we can just source strip for days and stun things for days. Then we run 3 Davises as our memory setter and to search it as well, basically, because it can grab almost any blue card in this deck except for Susano and Boko in the options. Then we run 3 Sora and Joes because we want to be able to strip as much sources as possible and gain memory off of them not having sources. And then the last 2 are actually the 2 Joes from the new set as well. This one is actually really broken. On play, you can trash any one Digivolution card of one of your opponent's Digimon. So you can just choose, and then when a Digivolution card of an opponent is removed, you gain a memory. So in this deck, you're going to be able to do that almost every single turn. So you're guaranteed to basically have this go off and gain you a memory. So it's really strong. Originally, I was running the old mat that gave you a memory for anything with no sources, but I feel this is a little bit better because you get it regardless because you're going to be stripping sources. But yeah, that's the deck. This deck is honestly disgusting. I haven't played a deck this degenerate in a long time. Back when this was at full power back in the day, it was a true menace. Almost every top like 32, 64 were all just this deck from most of that format, to the point where a lot of the people at my locals actually took a break from the format because it was just not fun to play against this deck because it was just so oppressive, especially back then because we didn't really have as many counters specifically for it. That's the thing. This deck did not have many counters for it back then. There are a lot of counters now. There's Hades Force, there's Quartzmon, there's just basically Greymon in general being able to delete Tamers. Machinedramon has a way to delete Tamers too, and it gets even more later on. A lot of decks have ways to kind of stop Tamers now, but even with all that, even in testing, this deck still does a lot of damage, especially in the current meta, because a lot of people don't really run that much Tamer deletion, unless you're basically playing Greymon and you run like the Hades Force, but even then during BT14, a lot of decks shift away from that and just kind of go back to the old way of checking like as much security as possible. So this deck actually has a chance to basically just go off and just keep going. Surprisingly, because not, as I mentioned, not enough tamer deletion, and if you don't do that, then you basically let this deck kind of go off and remove a lot of things. And yeah, aside from that, yeah, no, I look forward to seeing this deck do well, especially in regionals and locals, because I used to be a blue hybrid player, honestly, and it really sucked when Tommy was hit to one. So, and then it just kind of made the deck almost unplayable. It was playable slightly, but just not as good as it was. But now that we finally have it back at full power, I feel like this deck will be at least tier one. I hope it'll be tier one. If not, whatever, maybe tier 1.5, maybe top of tier two, whatever. But it's going to be a very good counter to a lot of the meta because Fenrir basically loses all its sources in the process. Um, Digipolice just gets farmed by this deck because they have so many guys with no sources, and it can strip all of the protection Brigadramon has. Um, what else? Just basically, a lot of the meta decks just don't really have an answer to source stripping still, which is really not good for them because blue hybrid can just capitalize on that because it's one of the few mechanics aside from like that weird superior mode effect that a lot of decks just can't counter unless they're playing X antibody. Then you have a problem, but even then you can still kind of just get rid of all their protection anyway, and they can't do anything. So it's still really solid regardless. As usual, as I mentioned, this is a template for you guys to kind of get a general outline of the deck so you can kind of make your own. This is my personal build, and this is what I usually use, so it feels solid specifically for me. Yeah, and usually, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought of this build, and I'll see you guys next time.